I've been reluctant to do this video. Most I do on a whim. So if I have a feeling, a thought, an urge, I just naturally just start recording. There's no pre-planning on anything I've done. And yeah, last night I was like, no, I don't want to go near it. I'm just going to see if I can sort of get my mind in a better place, really. But, you know, I'm just fed up, you know. It's really heavy existence, this life. Now, this isn't some morbid way. I'm not talking anything like deep, dark, and sinister or anything. It's just like a reflection of the world. And it's really heavy living in a world that's just so cruel, so negative. Like, I know some people might think there's some ulterior motive when you do that, because most people, they're so self-serving. They focus so much on their lives, they genuinely don't care about the rest of the world or other people. Whereas I'm far more, I look at everything and I realize the influence we have on those around us and the influence they have on us. So this isn't a case of we live like castaways on an island on our own and we make, you know, our happy space. That's not reality. Reality is we all blend together, we all merge, and we interact. And even if you don't meet someone, everything has a consequence. It's a domino effect. So you can come here, have an experience where you're the epicenter of your world and nothing else matters, but that's just delusional. And the problem is that then has a knock-on effect, doesn't it? So others suffer for your selfishness. That's what happens. So you look around the world and it's just so chaotic right now. And I think the real big part, the biggest problem for me is America. It's having a more of an impact on me than I wish it did. To put it into perspective, America was always, I think for the majority of people, I think when you didn't really know the depths of America, for instance, if you're just talking about something iconic, it was the picture of hope and possibility. Even if you didn't know deep into American politics, the societal values, the culture, it was what was broadcast to us, especially through media and, you know, movies and things. It seemed like a place you'd want to be. So in a world that's quite toxic, hateful, spiteful, always wars, always corrupted, America was like a bit of a guiding light in a sense. Even though we knew it wasn't perfect, it was something about the hope that America was. And I say was, because now that our hope has faded, it's become, I think for a lot of people around the world now, those that have their eyes open at least, it's more like a no-go area, like red, just constant red. You don't go near America. It's just toxic right now. There was a video come up earlier, and the person said, this is like, America is like satanic now. And I thought, that's exactly what it is. Exactly. It's satanic. It's literally been consumed by nefarious, corrupt officials who are influenced by even worse corrupt people. And then that filters down to the population who then suffer. And it's disgusting. It really is. So that hope has faded. And like I say, I'm someone who looks at the broader world and the influence that we have and they have on us. And look, to put it into perspective, I have high hopes for my life, the accomplishments I can achieve, the life I can build for myself. But I'm not self-serving. And I've always felt that like, there's no point being successful when everyone around you is suffering. Like, what joy do you get from that? And I know that I say that, but I know a lot of people do because they're just so selfish. They'll literally have sports cars. They'll have this incredible mansion. And like, there's people like this. This is like the tyrants, the dictators. They're happy to have everything that life could bring them. And then everybody on the outside of that wall is suffering in the slums. And I don't see how you can feel comfortable living a life knowing that so much suffering is existing around you. Like, I can't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. How can you enjoy your bounty when you know there's others who are suffering? It's a bit like if you had, to compare it, because I know some people just can't get their head around some things. And I'm not being cruel and rude when I say that. I'm just it's the way people have been doctrined, you know? It's, think of this. If you was at a table and maybe you had your family and they had their friend with them. Now, it doesn't have to be a friend. It could be someone just know from school or they bumped into someone. Okay, let's do it this way because not everybody's friends. let's say it's someone they bumped into from school. You've gone out for the day, and that kid hasn't eaten. They haven't eaten their breakfast, they haven't had lunch, they haven't had dinner. You're about to have like McDonald's and things. You got yourself a nice burger, you got a milkshake, you got fries. These are things that a lot of people take for granted. Some people can't even do that. This child hasn't eaten. It's not your problem. It's not my problem. You haven't eaten. That's what a lot of people are like. But like for me, how could I sit there comfortably eating and enjoying my milkshake, knowing the suffering that's existing right in front of me? You'd want to help them or share. Surely that's empathy. That's my. I say that's natural instinct. That's my natural instinct. Money isn't like the be all and end all in my life. Of course, we would all like nice things, but you know, I like doing acts of kindness. But I just see it as service. It's almost like it's like goodwill. It's like should be given. It shouldn't even be hesitated. If someone is that struggling, you know. But like I say, if you can put that in your head, that's how I live. And it bothers me a lot. So like, I could not think about America and I could just shut it off from my head. I'm in England. Just focus on England. My mind don't allow me to do that. If I could do that, I could build a beautiful life for myself. But my mind's everywhere. And the problem is I talk on topics that can get me in trouble. It can dent career opportunities. It can destabilize my life financially and all sorts of areas. But I'm not someone that can just turn off from it. Because if you shut off from it and everybody's scared to speak, that's when we lose complete control of the planet. And right now, there's the people in charge, people with power. They have a lot of influence on so many people, and yet they are the few. So I lose hope. I do lose hope sometimes. Like sometimes I have a battle with myself. And I can get down because sometimes I even to myself yesterday, I was like, I've had enough of this world. I don't think it can be healed. Like, I don't think we can get it back. Like my heart says it can. You just keep trying, keep showing people the way. But my head says it's too much. I don't think we can. I think it's too far gone. And that's really demoralizing in your mind, you know. Like I said at the beginning, it's not morbid. It's not like I'm interested. It's not like I'm going to hurt myself or anything crazy. It's more like the will sometimes fades because it's like, this is just crazy living like this, you know. It's like you've got America is like enveloping upon itself, literally. It's like not, on one stage it's trying to, the premise was try to remove illegal immigrants. And I've been down a whole path of that where I don't think illegal should exist. It's just people want a better life for themselves and they shouldn't be tormented for that, let alone removed from the lives they're living, and especially loved ones. And then even then, you're not even just getting deported humanely to their own country, which would make sense. They're getting put in camps and concentration camps and all sorts of shit. And it's like, this is just barbaric. This is absolutely disgusting. Treating human beings like they're just fodder, like meat. And then some people come out and rejoice about this. I talk about this a lot, where some people are just born into privilege. You don't have to be born into privilege of wealth, but you can be born into privilege of geography. Literally, just because you was birthed somewhere that gives you privilege, you feel now like you are a better class of human. Do you understand how delusional that is? That's absolutely outrageous. Anywhere on the planet, and you just get lucky enough to be there, and all of a sudden, nothing else matters because you're safe. That's what it is. I'm English. I have an awful lot of opportunities. One of my grandparents was Irish. I can get an Irish dual citizenship of Ireland and the UK. It opens up that whole British Isles. And then also Europe. I could stay in my own little box and just say, I'm happy. I've got as much opportunity as I need. I don't think I'm a better human than anybody else. I don't think I deserve more privilege than anybody else. I recognize the unfairness in it all. So I find it quite shocking when people don't. And I just look and just think, my God, you're so delusional. You're so delusional. You can't even put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand their plight and understand how unfair that is. I talk about it a lot. We should be nomadic. And I'll never change my view on that. I'll never change my view on the fact that people should be free to traverse this world, this earth, It's all of ours. If I want to see the far reaches of this planet, I should have every right to reach that far reaches. I shouldn't be bound and shackled and then keep sent in left and right, and then even abused or treated like inhumanely just because I wanted safe passage or I decided I wanted to stay somewhere for a while. You understand how barbaric that is? Because I'm just showing a depths into my mind, how my mind thinks. And then I start thinking of, because I know there's some people in the world who aren't educated. They don't understand the difference maybe between a town and a city, let alone a county, a country, a continent. But I'll explain it a little bit here. So you've got the countries, which is what most people focus on. Then you've got continents. So these are areas of the world, regions with multiple countries. So for instance, Europe has Italy, Spain, you've got Greece. In terms of the European continent, England is part of the European continent. It's just not part of the European Union, which is more of a democratic alignment thing. I don't know what you'd call it, governance. So they govern themselves. So England just governs itself, but it's still part of the European continent. You can't change your geographical location. Understandable. So I would argue that democracy, Europe is the most democratic continent in the world. Now, some people want to diminish Europe and try to accuse this of that. If you actually look at Europe, it's not dictated by trying to be the wealthiest nations in the world. Obviously, there's wealthy nations. But if you look at the culture, it's beautiful. You look at history, it's incredible. And if you look at even just the countries in general, the aesthetics of them, they're absolutely beautiful. So people have morals. Now, not everybody. There's, you start going deep enough in, there's poverty, there's issues here, there's issues there. But democracy is the best in the world. And yeah, there is issues. So when I see people in European countries, for instance, say, I can't wait to leave, I'm going somewhere. It's like, where? Because you're naive. Nowhere's perfect. So if you think, for instance, a European country isn't serving your interest, that's quite frightening. Because in all reality, it's very unlikely there's going to be anywhere else that does. On the face of it. Now, I haven't got into every single country, but in terms of continents, that's what I think. So like I said, America, the United States, that was a bit of a guiding light, really. I've always been attracted to Canada as well. So North America aligns very well with the values of England. Well, so it seemed. And then all of a sudden, it's making our little island is quite rare in this world right now. That's scary, no? Well, it's scary to me. So if we start going around the continents a little bit here, the way I might be wrong. There might be a naivety to me. But this is just what I'm saying. I see the corruption in the world. And it's not a nice place to be. I'm not enjoying my place in it, to be totally honest. And that's just a reflection. So I'm going to get onto that. But when you think of it, it's like, what's the point of being successful when the world is as bad as it is? What's the point of trying to build your own little window of paradise when it's so evil around? It's so cruel. People are just so self-serving. It's almost like everybody's gone feral. Yeah. I don't know. It's, there's just, no one cares about anything else anymore. They're just all so self-centered, and then it just becomes chaotic. But anyway. So South America, for instance, you just see an awful lot of crime. You see an awful lot of corrupt governance. So even the police are corrupted, which filters all the way through the governments. You often see, I think it's in Venezuela, it's either Ecuador or Venezuela, I often see reports of uprisings. People rioting in the streets all the time against the leaders and things, because it's just so corrupt. Now, I don't know about every single country in South America, like in terms of the way it's governed and whether there's any that are fair and balanced, but it does seem an awful lot of violence. That's what I get for that. So, do I want to travel to South America? No. There's nothing there I'm interested in seeing. I don't say this to be rude. It's just an awareness. Then you go into Africa. Africa, I think everybody is aware the poverty that is in Africa. Now, of course, that's a broad statement to make. There's a lot of countries in the continent of Africa. I'm not aware of every single one in reality. If you ask me the names and put them on a map, that's an area of the world I'm not really going to know exactly where to put the pins. Within Africa, there is racism. There's an incredible amount of poverty. We've seen there is like terrorism to an extent. It breeds terrorism. You've seen, I think, is it Somalia, where you get the pirates trying to attack the ships and vessels, but also you get extremists. There was people who come in and they just kidnap people. It's quite barbaric in certain regions. And then you see even sort of Libya, you get displaced a leader, and it's not replaced with a stable government. You get to see that around the world as well. There's a lot of times after America's caused its trouble. So America acts like it's policing the world. It can't even police itself. It's a mess. And then you see a lot of Libyans are trying to leave Africa to go into Europe. Because a lot of them are aware that's where the democracy is. That's where opportunity is. That's where freedom exists. So America tries to portray itself as the land of the free. It's actually Europe. It's just Europe doesn't blast itself. They just get on. They focus on their culture. They focus, I just think there's more togetherness. Anyway, so that's there. I can't look, I'm not going to pick up the whole continents or everywhere else because I'm not sure if the issues are separate to one area. So if you see the Middle East, for instance, we already see in the crisis of Israel and Iran. But then I think I don't know if it's I think it's more of a religious thing, but there's a lot of rules that just suppress human rights. Women are treated differently to men. You can't hold hands in public, all this shit. It's like, this is ridiculous. We're not, there's too many people have control over people's lives, and that's not natural. No one has the right to determine how someone else should go about their daily lives. It's just disgusting. And if that's a religious thing, then I've already said I think religion should be eradicated anyway. I don't think they serve a purpose. In the long term, I think they'll be extinct. To put in perspective, I'm spiritual. I can get my tarot cards. I get divine guidance. I could sit there all day and you'd just see the consistency across the board. And I always wonder what sort of signs and revelations do religious people get in their daily life. I don't say that to be sort of antagonistic. I just don't think they do. If they do, I think it's part of a spiritual experience rather than one of religion. If it's one of religion, how often do they receive this guidance? And is it only during certain moments? Because if it's certain moments, again, it's spiritual, not religious, isn't it? It's just the religion's tainted your view. And I would say, even if religions are perfect, let's say one religion is perfect, they keep getting misinterpreted anyway. The context, the text, it's just ridiculous. To put into context, there's a video somewhere, I can't remember exactly where it is on my YouTube channel. And I could do it now, but I'm not going to bother. But I can channel through and ask specific people. And I asked Jesus, Joshua, about his crucifixion. And the cards showed me exactly what happened. He didn't die in the cave and got resurrected. He was near death in the cave. So when he come out, it looked like it was a revelation. Like he survived. He's rebuilt. He's reborn. That's what I got from it. And it's like, that made sense to me. Okay, that's what happened. Then I asked about the Bible, in particular, the New Testament. Are you happy with the New Testament? Because I thought maybe not, because I'm not religious and I don't believe half of the things. I believe his story, but I don't know how much taken out of context. And within my tarot reading, he was happy with the New Testament. So I was a bit surprised by that. I'm open-minded. I don't see it to taint what comes through. But then I said, has some of the New Testament, has it been taken misrepresented, as our people misinterpreted the meanings within this? And he said yes. And that's the problem with religions anyway. It's like people just misinterpret everything all the time. But if you see it at face value and actually see what they're saying with your own eyes, then he's happy with that. Anyway, that's my interpretation. That's going to offend some people, but I don't give a shit. The world's freaking toxic as shit anyway. And if you look at that, you look at it from that point of view, actually, I think this is a good segue. If religions are so great, why is the world so shit? Because so far, religions have had a hold of this planet since the beginning of time. So why are we in this mess then? If religion's great, if we go through the Middle East, why is there always this constant battles in the Middle East and this people are just not happy? If Christianity is so great, why is America the way it is, considering that's a very predominant Christian nation? Like, I'm just saying, if people got an answer to that, I'd love to see it. Because I see the Vatican is wealthy, and then you just see they're the head of the Christianity. I don't know who ordained that. Personally, I think that's a load of shit. I don't want to be cruel or rude or offend. I don't really mind if I do. But why do they get to live so lavishly? I see the Vatican City, and I'll say it. I see it like the Roman Empire, when the emperors got to live all this lavish life, and it was everybody else around them struggled, and they just entertained them in waves just to distract their mind. So they'll have their little moments when they parade a new pope, and they start to have these days. I don't know exactly what days they have to celebrate shit, but it's ways to distract you. And they'll just keep gaining, and you won't see them struggling, will you? You don't see someone struggle at the expense to help someone else. They don't struggle like that. It's not right. There's a lot of corruption in religion, believe me. And again, I think that helps explain the world as well there. But then again, you go over to Asia, we've got China is very much a surveillance state. Everything's cameraed. Nobody has their dignity or privacy. And then, of course, you go over to North Korea. Nobody has their freedom. It's very dictatorial. It's absolutely crazy that people are just treated like ants. Like, I don't understand how that's even... How can that be normalized, this sort of shit where one person acts like a god? That's what it is. There's these tyrants who act like gods. You're just a man or a woman. You're just a person. You was given privilege, and you overexerted that privilege because you're insecure. Secure people don't have to exert strength. They don't have to display posture strength. Insecure people do. So that tells you everything you need to know about these people. That they don't feel confident without the power that they hold. So they reinforce it. And they hold on to it as much as they can. It'll implode. They'll all blow up eventually. You know, if they think they're immortal, they're nuts. So they only get a certain period of time on this earth, just like the rest of us, and they'll be known. If in a soul point of view, if I put it into perspective here, because this is like I am spiritual, and I just want to make it clear here. So our souls are eternal to the most part. They're sort of immortal. So we'll have various lives. I've had a lot of science about my life. I'm not going to go into it, but this is my last lifetime for my all accounts. I'm not going to go deep into that. It's my journey. Which means I'm quite an advanced soul. And there was someone I saw channeling something. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I had a feeling myself. I don't know if I asked Spirit after through my own guidance. I just felt that it was true. Because I know, like Archangel Michael, for instance, can devour, like eliminate. I'm not going to go too far into this. If you actually go into the spiritual stuff and you actually really dig into this and you have your own experiences, you know, if there's demonic entities, he can eradicate them, like literally eradicate them. He can send them back to where they come from, because there is a balance between light and dark, or he can literally obliterate it, which means he can devour, he can remove a soul, literally eliminate it. So it's eternal to a point. And I saw something about Hitler, where someone, I don't know, it was mediums and things, or psychics were trying to connect to figure out what happened to Hitler's soul. Like, what, has he reincarnated yet and all that? And it was suggested that his soul has been eliminated. I'll get goosebumps now. And I think that's true. I didn't even bother asking my tarot cards. I'm getting huge goosebumps. I don't even know if it can come up on camera. His soul was eliminated. He doesn't exist. That soul doesn't exist anymore. Hitler ended after their time on Earth. So that's how I see these tyrants. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump, on the other side, is eliminated after this life on Earth. North Korean leader, Putin. So in this life, they want to be tyrants. They want to have all this power. This would likely be their last existence ever, while the rest of us live on in other lives on the other side. You know, things I say, people can like question and ridicule. I don't flinch. I don't know what exactly my role is in my next lifetime. And I've had deep channeling sessions with gifted people. And it was said, like, if I chose to come back in another life, I can have another lifetime if I choose to, but I don't need to. This is effectively your main path, which makes sense when you see the things I talk about. It's like, leave something for the world. If you look at me, I never fear the end either. Like, I just know I get to return to peace. I get to return back to spirit source. And, I've done the best I can. And it's like, that's how I live, I live day to day, moment to moment, do the best I can, and laying the groundwork for the next generation. And when the time is up, the time is up. But I'm not sure my exact path on the other side. I get a lot of signs you're spiritual royalty, but I don't really know what that means. It's things for me to uncover as I go. At the very least, I would consider the fact that maybe I'll be a spirit guide in the next life. Maybe even maybe an ascended master. Maybe you're in training for being an ascended master. I don't really know. But it's nice to know that there's positive things to come after this life. And I think it's too much dwelling in this lifetime, I think that's why I say about the self-serving nature. When you think about your soul and its frequency, the vibration, when you're greedy, spiteful, all these toxic things, if you think about frequency in general, it's a lower frequency. So you've got a lot to learn. So you're going to go through many lifetimes, life cycles, to keep trying to enhance your soul to reach its highest frequency. So when you live that that low vibrational life, you're just so far from evolution. It's a waste of life. You got caught up in the material, the superficial, becoming power hungry and dominating those around you. It's like, what for? Like, think about it. It gets boring. Keep having things and just doing the mindless things. It's boring. You run out. It runs out. It's just dull. It's the same thing repeated. There's no substance. So like I say, my life goes beyond the obvious. And when people maybe want to question something or that, it's that they don't understand my path. They don't understand that I just genuinely don't care about a lot of things they care about. I want to have nice things. Of course, I'd like to still have experiences. They'll be nice. Have some nice experiences along the way. But I know my path. And I'm just intent on fulfilling it. And I don't expect to live to 100 years old. Couldn't say I definitely would want to. So, like for me, it's just live in the moments. And I say, document things as it happens. Because sometimes I might think this is pointless. There's no point me talking about that. But it might connect with someone who needs to hear it. And it might be that they take from it what I wasn't aware was there, So I just think always be honest, always have integrity. And if you've got something on your mind, I think just say it and then let it be processed later. So this might be a pointless video altogether, and it might be like, there was no need for that. Well, there's no harm in sharing what's on my mind. So when I look over at America, for instance, at the moment, it's dominating a lot of headlines. But it's affecting everybody, because Trump just keeps setting these stupid tariffs which cause instability in the economy around the world. He doesn't seem to know what he's doing. When he gets questioned on things, he doesn't even understand half the things he's enacting. That's quite frightening, because that would suggest he's being guided by other people with other intentions then. Because if he's not aware of what he's signing off, that's just alarming. And I find it quite interesting that a video just come up and it was showing that these camps that people are getting put into to be detained for like immigration. And then someone commented, well, it's funny how it's only because now Europeans are involved. Now because Europeans are getting detained, now people are interested. And I thought, when people make stupid statements like that, it's like that just comes from their ignorance. Like, how could you make a comment like that without knowing someone's journey? I've been talking about this way before that shit. I talk about things as soon as I see them. If I see an injustice, I'll talk about it even before it's popular. Even before other people have noticed it. And I often come across as unhinged and crazy because I see most things before the average person does. But that doesn't change my opinion on the injustices I see and the issues that could be changed. So like I say, in America, I've seen for so long. I mean, most people have as well. But I just saw immense ignorance around it, to be totally honest. Because what it is, Americans have been doctrined into believing certain values are normal. And it's only when you try to just explain it a little bit, they can start to see a little bit about how their values are not that great. Like, for instance, I could talk about a lot with the pharmaceutical companies and the healthcare and things. It's like, Now, even recently, there's talk that Americans are going to lose access to Medicaid and things, so they're going to lose their health insurance, and they're not going to be able to. Their subsidies are going to be their cost of being provided healthcare is going to be incredibly high. There are going to be a lot of debts, and some people are not going to be able to even afford to even get healthcare. So it's just getting really toxic, really, and but that's been like that forever. But Americans have been so accustomed to it. They've always associated health with cost, not understanding that health is like having your health is something it should be freely accessible to people. You know, you should always be able to optimize your health. It shouldn't be a cost attached to that. But Americans are just so used to it having a cost attached to it, whereas other countries around the world, not every country, but certain places, they're used to their government looking after them, if you like. You know, the country, everybody's treated humanely. So Americans being treated inhumanely was considered by them as being humane. You know, it's crazy. So one of the ways a lot of Americans woke up was when this TikTok ban was coming in, because a lot went over to another social media platform. And I saw reports on this where apparently a lot of Americans were hearing from Chinese people and coming. Now, whether it's propaganda or not, it was becoming apparent that China, the way China society is, the way people live, is not as bad as Western media had shown it to be. So all of a sudden, China started to look like a really open-minded place compared to America. They started to realize how much their rights and their freedoms were eroded from them in America. It's only because it opened their eyes to what was happening in China, you know. And now Americans are starting to open their eyes a little bit more. But those of us that come from more of a liberated region, we saw it a long time ago. So the world isn't fair, and America isn't this land of the free and the opportunity. I often think that America, there's a chance to be incredibly wealthy, but there's a chance to be incredibly poor. So obviously, every country has people who are poor and people who have more. But I think America particularly is one that's really, really has a vast disparity between poor and wealthy. So the disparity is huge. Whereas other countries, maybe it's a little bit off kilt, but not madly. So effectively, people have similar lifestyles, but maybe some obviously a bit more prominent. But America, you could be just absolutely have nothing. You'd be in a box on a cardboard box, and then you could have someone who's just wealthy, like crazy, you know, with a massive entourage. And it's just like that's not normal. That's just a bit mad. But yeah, unless people start to instigate change, you start to elect officials who are not corrupted, which isn't easy because unfortunately, in politics, most officials are corrupted, or if they aren't yet, they will be. But you need strong leadership, and I do see it at times. There's the new New York governor. I don't know what his name is, or is it the mayor? He's standing up to Trump a bit, but I like the way I saw him. I saw him on TV recently, like through social media, and he presented very, very well. And I think he stands up for very, very good values. And I saw another woman in this, I think it's the Senate or Congress in America, and she was speaking up very, very passionately about people's rights, their freedoms, the fact they should have healthcare. And it's like, these are the leaders, you know? These give you hope. And if these can be the new face of the next generation, you know, in terms of politics, it's like, my God, there's hope. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps now, but that's what the world needs, you know? You can't allow these tyrants to control the world any longer. It's just not right. The next generation suffers and it doesn't change. It's been the way through history. I mean, finally getting rid of, like, in terms of like monarchies that have power, it's the same thing. Like I said about Trump acting like a king way before it became fashionable. I'm not trying to take freaking ownership of shit, but I'm just making the point that I was aware because obviously the UK has monarchies anyway, and it just naturally it just became quite apparent that this guy thinks he's in charge of everything. He doesn't have to report to anyone. It was like that's dangerous. If you look through history again, you got people in these nice palaces, these have all this wealth. They don't have to worry about anyone else, and everybody else is effectively their slave. How could one or very few people have that much control over other people? And why should people's lives be so limited in value? How can you treat people like that? And again, this comes from a warped ideology that your life is so much more significant than someone else's. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's crazy how some people can just walk among people suffering and not really care. Like, how could you truly enjoy like life in general and the things you have to an extent when you see so much negativity around you? Because the thing is, a lot of people, they only care once it affects them. It's too late. I saw someone the other day and they didn't care that their Medicaid may get removed. Their attitude was, "I'm able." This is what they said. I saw it and I thought, you're an asshole of a human being. In all honesty, and when it happens to you, you feel sorry for yourself, won't you? And again, you'll feel more privileged, like you deserve it, of course, because they're the epicenter of the whole world at this point. That's what that was coming across as. Because people are delusional. They don't care. There's ignorance. There's arrogance. And they were saying that, well, they're healthy and they're healthy and they're working, so they don't care. Like, people should just go to work. And so I ask right now, you're healthy. That's great. So what happens when you're not healthy though? Or what happens if you lose your job? Does it matter then? Because by then it's too late. The thing you didn't care about when it wasn't bothering you, it might be the thing you actually need later on when it does bother you. And it shouldn't be a case of doing it just because you can see it might bother you in the future. You should be doing it because you look at other people's lives and realize they need it. Why is other people thriving and being successful a threat to someone else's existence? That's the thing. This is that insecurity. Some people are just not confident amongst other people who could have confidence. I don't see anyone as a challenge or a threat to me. I'd rather lift people up with me than sit there and lord over to anybody, I'm not insecure. I'm just frustrated. I mean, of course, I can keep going on, but it's alarming when you look at the world. If you just have a moment and think about the world in general and think about all the corruption that exists, the politics, the leaders, the wars, the poverty, and the fact that people are just getting displaced now, but not just getting removed back to their homes or previous homes. They're getting displaced into what people call concentration camps, and effectively they are detainment facilities that could be indefinite. It's like you shouldn't have the right to trap people like that. And the thing is, if these leaders who enact this didn't have marshals with weapons, people would take matters into their own hands. It's only because it's weaponized defense that stops people from pushing that boundary. And they may reach a point where people won't even let that stop them. Because I think that people have a lot of power. You have government, you have leaders, there's one or two. Then you have the people they enact to do things on their behalf, like that. Maybe it's the Homeland Secretary. You got all these Secretary of States, all these little things. Okay, so there's a handful of them, and it just starts filtering down. But effectively, the people you're there to serve is in the millions. So even if you had one of these camps, like for instance, and let's say there's like 30 marshals, they've all got weapons. I'm not even suggesting people do this, but it's like officials only have power over people while people allow that power over them. So if you had millions of people, it's a bit like when you have these protests and they try to contain it and they try to tell people go back and that, or they detain people. They could only detain people once the protests died down and now there's less people. They can't detain everybody when they're en masse. It's only when the mass reduces. Now they can get control, and then they look like they're powerful, and then it tries to put fear into other people. But if people don't allow that fear to get into them and they stay together, they're the biggest army in the world. Biggest army that's ever existed is people. No army could ever outnumber the average person. So these concentration camps, for instance, if a whole community just freaking marched on there, you could take that quite comfortably, even if the marshals have weapons. First of all, are they really going to fire on people when there's that many people as well? Second of all, their rounds will run out. I know there'll be huge collateral damage. But of course, people can defend themselves with whatever they want to use. I'm not endorsing things like this, but my point is that these places they only have power and control while people allow them power and control. So people have their power to take back their community, take back their country. take back their dignity. And it's up to people whether that matters, or does it matter just their little safe haven they've created. And when everyone just stays in their little community, just I'm going to be safe, I'm not going to speak up, I'm not going to say anything, then yeah, everybody's trapped like prisoners. Anyway, it's up to people of the world they want to be a part of, you know.